Hola, bienvenidos al podcast de los pronombres de complemento directo e indirecto. Welcome, I'm Senora Stanias, and in this podcast we will be talking about object pronouns in Spanish. Students need to be able to recognize direct object pronouns, indirect object pronouns, and prepositional pronouns in Spanish. We'll be looking at the differences between these pronouns, how to use them, their placement, and our goal is to improve our written and spoken Spanish proficiency. As we go through this podcast, make sure you have your grammar sheet with you and take notes along with examples of these different object pronouns. And we're going to start with our indirect object pronouns. So they are as follows: me, te, le, nos, os, and les. And remember, our indirect object pronouns would identify the to whom or for whom an action is done. Our direct object pronouns are as follows. Notice that they are just like our indirect object pronouns except for in the third person singular and plural. We have me, te, lo, la, nos, os, los, las. And our direct object pronouns directly receive the action of the verb. So they would answer that question, who or what. When we look at the preposition of object pronouns, notice that they both indirect and direct object pronouns will precede or come in front of the conjugated verb. Here's our example with an indirect object pronoun. Carla me da entradas al cine. And our direct object pronoun, ella las consigue gratis. When we have an infinitive construction, we do have a choice. That object pronoun can either be attached to the infinitive or placed in front of the conjugated verb. So our indirect object pronoun examples: necesitamos pedirle un favor. Le necesitamos pedir un favor. Our direct object pronoun example: van a verla mañana. La van a ver mañana. We also have a choice when we have a progressive form in our sentence. Object pronouns can be either attached to that present participle or placed before the conjugated verb. Our indirect object pronoun: Pedro está cantándome una canción. Pedro me está cantando una canción. And our direct object pronoun: está cantándola muy mal. La está cantando muy mal. We do need to look at double object pronouns. When we have an indirect object pronoun and a direct object pronoun in a sentence together, you'll notice that the indirect object pronoun needs to go first. So our examples, if we have the sentence, me mandaron los boletos por correo, and we want to change los boletos to a direct object pronoun, me los mandaron por correo. Another example, te exijo una respuesta ahora mismo, becomes te la exijo ahora mismo. We need to notice that if we're going to have le or les as our indirect object pronoun, we need to change it to se if it is going to be used in front of lo, la, los, or las. So, le da los libros a Ricardo becomes se los da, or se los da a Ricardo. Le enseña las invitaciones a Elena becomes se las enseña, or se las enseña a Elena. I included the two other examples in parentheses with the a because sometimes we want to use that for clarifying who we are talking about. We then will turn to our prepositional pronouns. You might want to pause the vodcast in order to fill in this information in your notes. Prepositional pronouns do function as the objects of prepositions, so there has to be a preposition in front of any one of these pronouns. And please notice that except for me, te, and si, the pronouns are the same as the subject pronouns. So here are some examples. ¿Qué piensas de ella? Ella sola piensa en sí misma. Or another example, ¿lo compraron para mí o para ti? Lo compramos para él. Please notice that the indirect object can be repeated with the construction a and the prepositional pronoun to provide clarity or emphasis. Another example, so ¿te gusta aquel cantante? Oh, a mí me fascina. In this case, this isn't for clarity, but this would be for emphasis, that I really find him fascinating. We need to notice that if the third person subject is talking about themselves, so himself, herself, or itself, then we have to use the pronoun si. And then when we do this, we usually will add mismo, misma, mismos, mismas, in order to clarify who we're talking about. So the difference between the two sentences will hopefully help you get some clarity onto this idea. José se lo regaló a él. José se lo regaló a sí mismo. We need to notice that there's a special change when we use con with me, ti, and si. So with. They become conmigo, contigo, and consigo. So quiero que ellos vengan conmigo al concierto. Voy contigo a dar un paseo. And finally, we have some prepositions that require us to use to or yo instead of ti and me. Those prepositions are entre, excepto, incluso, menos, salvo, and según. And I'm giving you a couple of examples. So entre tú y yo, Mario me cae mal, which means between you and me, I can't stand Mario. Or todos están de acuerdo menos tú y yo. Everyone is in agreement except you and me. That completes this vodcast. Please make sure that you complete the form that you will find underneath the vodcast and include any questions that you have. We will be discussing this in class. Gracias.